Welcome back. 25% tariffs remain in place on the Canadian automotive sector, affecting shipments of automobiles and automotive products, parts and so on, to the United States. Let's talk to an expert in the new and used vehicle markets here in Canada. Baris Akyurek is Vice President of Insights and Intelligence at Autotrader. Baris, it's good to have you here. Thanks for coming in. Okay, we were chatting about this off camera just before we came on. The big question is, what will these tariffs do to auto sales in Canada? You say there are already price increases in the used vehicle market in Canada.
That is correct. So, March, usually what happens with used car prices, Paul, is that they start on the higher side in the beginning of the year, and they come down throughout the year. And that was the case for the first couple of months. But March, we saw a slight uptick, 0.3% on a month-over-month basis. So there's quite a bit of demand out there, and prices are reflecting these market dynamics.
These used vehicles being sold by dealerships and by individuals?
That is correct.
Right?
That is correct.
Okay, what do you expect in terms of new vehicle pricing?
Yeah, new vehicle prices probably going to go up. That's pretty obvious, right? Because of these tariffs. There's quite a bit of the supply chain is pretty tight between Mexico, US, and Canada. So it's inevitable that we're going to see some increases. That said, looking at the inventory on autotrader.ca, there's quite a bit of supply right now, so 70 days worth of supply. So it might not be immediate, but at some point it will come.
In the U.S., we've heard these forecasts from companies in your industry predicting an increase in the price of a new vehicle in the United States of at least $4,000 US. Would we expect similar magnitude increases here in Canada?
Yeah, we haven't done the analysis per se, but I read the similar reports. It's around $3,000 to $12,000, obviously depending on the make and model and where they're produced. So there will be impact for sure. And that's why what we are seeing in the used side of the market, those people who are trying to get ahead of this and moving to used and buying cars, and therefore prices are going up.
Do you see this as a temporary spike in demand and pricing for used vehicles, or will this be a trend that endures for a while?
So I think it all depends on how long these tariffs will last. If they're long-term, I don't think we'll be talking about only automotive market. It's going to be, the conversation is going to be about the economy as a whole. But if it's the short term, we expect to see that these trends to continue in the short term.
Okay. What is your longer term view? What might happen here in the longer term if the tariffs remain in place for a significant period of time?
So yeah, I mean, based on what we've heard from OEMs in the industry, probably there's going to be some impact on production levels. If the demand is down both in the US and in Canada, probably you don't need to produce as many cars. But on the other hand, if the prices increase, obviously demand's going to go down, and there's going to be even further increase on demand on used vehicles.
You've surveyed Autotrader customers. What are they saying about their intentions?
Yeah, so we asked consumers whether these tariffs would have an impact on their vehicle purchase decision. 47% of them said that it would, obviously. And then within that 47%, exactly what we are seeing, what we've just discussed, 30% of them said that they would buy a used vehicle instead. And that's exactly what we are seeing.
How much does a typical Autotrader user pay for a used vehicle?
$36,000 is the average of a price of a used car now.
Okay. What about inventory levels? Are they a factor here? Cars that are already on lots or in some people's driveways waiting to be sold?
Yeah, so so the used car supply is a bit constrained as it is. We just overlapped 4 years when the COVID-related production challenges started to happen. We estimated that between 2020 and 2023, 1.5 million fewer cars were sold. So these cars are never coming back to the used car market, obviously. So the supply is already a bit constrained, and now the demand is increasing and the prices are reacting accordingly.
Do you believe it's realistic that some Canadian automakers or parts makers may reassign assembly into the United States?
Likely. I'm not a supply chain expert. I don't want to speculate, but if this is a long-term thing, maybe, but I'm not 100% sure.
What is your advice to people and households that want to buy a vehicle, that want or need to buy a vehicle right now?
Right. I think I've been asked this question multiple times, and my answer is that if you have the financial means and if you really need a car, definitely pull the trigger. Because of what we've discussed, demand's going up, supply is constrained, prices might go further up. And going back to COVID, what we saw in 2021 is that used car prices went up by 21.7%. I'm not suggesting that we would see a similar increase, but there is going to be an increase nevertheless. So if you need to buy a car, buy it now.
History has shown us, I think you're saying, that used car prices can be very volatile.
100%.
And what about the choice between a new and used vehicle? Is that just dependent on the household itself, its preferences and its financial capacity?
Yeah, exactly. Depending on what you want, if the vehicle that you're interested in doesn't exist on the new side, obviously you start looking on the new and vice versa.
Baris, thank you a great deal.
Thanks for having me.
Baris Akyurek.